Good evening, Warriors! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well on this St. Patrick's evening. We're getting close to around midnight. Once again, my only opportunity to go ahead and make a video, but I figured I spend the time because I love doing this kind of stuff. And I want to kind of talk about this idea that really is very near to my heart, to be able to kind of get these ideas out there and be able to kind of talk about our favorite subjects: retention, becoming a man again, and going ahead and doing the things we need to do to be that masculine male who provides and protects, and be able to become that strong male that we need so much more in this society. And I think it's getting there. I see a lot of good trends, a lot of things happening that's getting us back to normal. I saw something talking about today where the people are becoming more enamored with the idea of traditional wives. Very interesting, very interesting. The women are going back to some of the traditional types of family things, which is wonderful. Warriors, wonderful to hear. All right, anyway, topics, ideas we're going to talk about. Once again, about the 2-minute mark or so. Alex McCann, thank you, my friend, for your comment. Charles Rivers, thank you. Create, Heal, Inspire, very nice. Optical Man, always nice. Knowledge Brokoff, thank you. Jon Bishop, Coen, Justin Powell, and Blanket Services, thank you. Talks about you can, if you squint your eyes, you can see the auras, and that could be true. I've never tried that, so I think I'm going to try that. So, and then we also have one. Now I may get this name wrong, but Siviwe Inkula talks about the fact that why do men want to fight, and we'll kind of do a separate one on this one. But the idea here, my friend, is the fact that males who are not retaining, they will sense your energy as well. And they also look at the attention that women give you. They know the attraction down deep subconsciously. They're jealous. They're upset. They actually may want to try to fight you and go this macho type of thing. Never engage in this kind of nonsense. Never engage in this nonsense, because you're a warrior. You don't need to prove how worthy you are. You don't need to prove how rich you are. You don't need to prove how successful you are. You're just there because you're there, and you got a purpose. You got things you've got to accomplish, and you don't have time to deal with nonsense egos that want to, build themselves up at your expense. And this is what happens. This is really what we're talking about. People, one-upsmanship, I call it. They try, whether it's women or men, they try to suck your energy, and you have no time for that. Move on and forget about it. But we'll talk about that, another one I liked, and Brian Alonso as well. Thank you, my friend. So today, at the 3-minute mark, we're going to talk about transmutation techniques and ideas. So I had a bunch of notes that I wrote. This comes back from some comments and thoughts from Awie, AWIE. Thank you for that comment. You were interested in this. Let me see if I have anybody else. DH is talking about more methods to transmute. So this is kind of what we're going to focus on today. Let me see if anyone else made a comment like that. But I appreciate that. Anybody else under this category? Let me just make a quick note and see. Habits during SR, Sims, we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So thank you guys for your comments. So we're going to talk about transmutation. So let's kind of put this out with some ideas here. So first of all, what does transmuting mean? So for those who are joining me, and also, by the way, I think Frederick asked me a question. I will always make this comment. I try to make this in every video. But the book that got me started back in 1998 with the Fountain of Youth, which kind of eventually led me to semen retention number. It was a 6th right. There's actually 6 exercises here. I followed the 5 religiously for a long time, and I made some strides. I mean, certainly, I felt a lot better. I didn't feel like I did one of the days when I played football. This is when I was about 35 years old, and I felt much better with the exercises. So I got a lot of success, but I wasn't where I really wanted to go until I read this 6th, and it finally dawned on me what he was talking about. And this is Peter Kelder talking about the Fountain of Youth. This is a book that is not that big, but very powerful. And it talks about the monks up in Tibet back in the old days, living for many years, not even know how old they are, just because of some of these exercises, and it's transmuting and working with the chakras in their body and being able to, make themselves a lot younger, or at least stop. Not as I say make themselves younger. They're basically kind of slowing time down so that their aging process is a lot slower, and they're much more vigorous and vital. That's why I call this vigorous warriors, because we're going to be vigorous until we're in the hundreds, not only just 20, 30, 40 years old, to the point where you're 60, 70, and I'm 61, and hopefully I stay vigorous for a long, long time, and I don't feel like I'm slowing down right now, and actually I feel like a lot younger. So those exercises help me, but the sixth one was the one with semen retention, doing exercises to transmute. And what you're doing is you're converting heavy energy that you have, like the excitement, the arousal that you're having when you see a beautiful woman or something like that, and you're looking at this, and now you're saying, okay, my kick-in, energy is saying I need to procreate. And that's something we all have, those kind of, attitudes, needs that come into it. Obviously, given the situations, unless it's your wife or some kind of situation that you want to do this with, and you realize the consequences of this, then you're going to basically say, okay, no, I'm not going to do anything with this. I know what's happening, but I want to transmute this energy. If you don't transmute it, there could be problems. Obviously, you could affect your, the chakras down there. You could have, frustration, and some people I know have pain because they're not really doing transmutation. And this is the key to it. Transmutation is really important. So you're you're going from heavy energy, and you're moving this energy and making it lighter, moving it up through your body and creating energy, right, in the rest of your body. So you're moving it back. So those nutrients, those vitamins, those things within the semen can actually go back and help. And so you're not just kind of going to expense it out to the bed sheets or whatever you're going to do it with, even a woman, and you're just going to waste it for no reason at all. You're not really intending to have children, and you're really just kind of using it for pleasure. And what are you doing with it? That's really the question. What are you really doing with this except a few minutes of pleasure? And we know what happens after the pleasure. All of a sudden you feel guilty, and it doesn't, and you fall asleep sometimes. You're not even really awake half the time. So the bottom line really is what are you really exerting your energy for? What is this? Some people do it all the time. I remember someone telling me, I think maybe I said this yesterday, somebody's looking on Google and says you should be releasing 21 times a month. Man, oh man, that is kind of crazy stuff, right? But it is something that people in this world believe that this is what the doctors, the medical field have said. And who's to blame? Who's gonna say no if they don't do research and look at this? However, all you got to think about is common sense. All these thousands of years, Taoism, Brahmacharya, you're not seeing these people releasing. You really think these people are making money? Warren Buffett and all these people, they're releasing 21 times a month? Any successful person? Warriors, just give some thought to this a little bit and realize those people are transmuting energy. Now, the other books that I talk about a lot talks about the richest man in Babylon when we talk about finances. We're also talking about Napoleon Hill's got a great book called Think and Grow Rich. And chapter 9, 11, one of those two chapters, they talk about the transmutation of sexual energy. And he talks about this as a great chapter to look at, even if you don't read the whole book, which I would recommend reading the whole book as well. But if you don't read the whole book, read that. I'm very much into, over the years, teaching about the law of attraction, talking about, now they call it the secret, but it used to be called the secret of the ages, all these things, the same principle. Using your mind along with as a co-creator with God to be able to create things. Well, in this case, you're transmuting energy. Now, what the key is you're not talking about sublimation. Now, let me define that in my notes here. So, people say, well, Vigor Warrior, what you're doing is hurting yourself. That energy is staying in your chakras and down there, and you're not really using it, and so it's going to hurt you. Well, of course, if you're not using it, you're sitting around playing video games, or you're sitting around watching TV, and you're not using it, of course it's not going to help you. But what you really want to do, we're not talking about trying to hurt yourself here, my friends. We're talking about using that energy and using it for some other higher purpose. And that's what we're talking about. We're changing that energy from something sexual to something that is more refined. Achieving goals, working on your body, physically, spiritually, mentally, and getting in a state of mind where you're focusing that energy on something that's positive and working in the right direction. And that's kind of the key when we're talking about this. We're not talking about holding back on your energy. I mean, that's a natural thing we have, and God's given us that to procreate. I mean, to further the population, to further generations. However, there's a right time and right place for that. And the bottom line really is that those other times you need to be able to keep that stuff within you in a way where it's using and it's creating more. You need to be very creative with this thing and be able to move that energy into areas of your body, primarily up, to be able to kind of use it and not to let it sit there and kind of fester in your, down in your chakras, and all of a sudden now you're frustrated. Now you're upset and you get frustrated and you create a lot of problems because you're not practicing this transmutation. All right, so Napoleon Hill talks about this. The most potent light force, and I kind of took it from the chapter. Your semen is the most potent light force. And this was talked about he wrote this back in the 1960s and 70s and things like that. And it doesn't change. I mean, it's been around this for thousands of years. This is why if your semen can create a child and help create a child, of course it's one of the most powerful things in the world. And you know that. I've seen so many people talking lately about how happy they are under retention, how happy they are with being able to have girls who are interested in them because of the way they talk to others. And I have people talking about, the big effect that has. Well, yes, warriors, that's it. That's because other people recognize it. Now, we also talk about males who are upset or jealous or, they're envious of you. Well, that's because they can't control. They haven't got to that point. You have to. You have been. So it's a blessing that God has given you to give this knowledge. It's a blessing we're here. It's a blessing. I feel blessed that I was able to, after all those years, find some secrets here of life and realize that this is something that needs to happen. And then also the Lord give me the power to be able to sustain this and talk about this over 1,020 some days. So it's not an easy type of thing to do. And, I see the effects at 61. You guys are in your 20s, a lot of you 20 to 30s. Holy mackerel. If that happened to me, my friends, I'd be over the unbelievable energy coming through. I still feel it now, and I'm 61. You guys at 20, you guys you got to be doing even more transmutation to get that stuff moving. So anyway, as I joke a little bit, but I think the key, guys, is to realize how powerful this force is. And it's important to look at that. But most people waste their energy. Most people, and we're not talking about the 1% that we're listening and we're talking right now, or our warriors. Most people waste their energy on two things. I would call them indulgence, things that they do that don't have any purpose. Now, if you're doing something like a hobby and there's an end result to it, or you're investing money, or you're exercising, or you're bettering relationships with people, and there's a purpose to it, that's what you got to do with transmutation. But the problem is a lot of people waste their time, and the other thing they waste on besides indulgences is addictions. And whether it's a gambling addiction or an eating addiction or it's a sex addiction, all these addictions serve to destroy you and take your energy away. So you're not really transmuting it, you're wasting it. And this is the key. You got to have some long-term purposes and goals for things that you're doing. Always ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing, whether it's gambling and betting, whether it's drugs, doing marijuana, doing other drugs, LSD, cocaine, whatever it is, are these things benefiting me? Yeah, they may give me a little time. Or are you trying to get away from problems? This is really what it is. Are you trying to use these things, drinking and drugs and gambling, to get away from the stress and issues? I mean, I remember I've been there. Been all around the block several times. And the idea is a lot of times you're doing this stuff to get away from stress and problems. Well, the problems never go away. They're still there. And now you're in a worse situation because of all the things you're trying to get away from issues. So don't do that. Don't focus on your addictions and indulgence. Instead, use that energy to focus on something that's positive. All right, so you're wasting time. So don't waste time, your money, your creative abilities on things that are not going to help you in the long run. Always think in terms of cost and benefit. Is the reward of what I'm doing worth the cost that I'm paying, whether it's time, money, or whatever it might be? That's the key. All right, retention is key. Retention is key. You gotta behave. You gotta have your brain and your behaviors cannot be ruled by your sexual desires. It has to be ruled by your goals and your habits you're forming. This is the key. As someone once told me, Vigor Warrior's father told me many years ago, think with the head up here, not the other thing you're talking about down there, right? This is what you got to think about. Let yourself be controlled up here more, and your faith and your attitudes, and then the bottom reproductive chakra, we'll call it, right down there, and that's the key. Now, what we can do? Let's look at some techniques here. Some people are asking about this. All right. So first of all, your breathing. I've given you some examples. Let me go back over them again for those who are new to the channel. So you breathe in. Now, if you see a beautiful woman and you really desire her and you feel it coming, breathe in. Put your thumb in your nose and then change over and let it out. What's happening is the oxygen is going to your brain, and obviously you start forgetting. I teach this when I teach public speaking too. Try to get oxygen in your brain so that now you're not concentrating on your thought. It goes away. Same thing with sleeping. You can go to sleep a lot of different ways too, like that, with deep breathing. The same method. So whenever you think about some attractive girl you're seeing, start doing that, and you'll be able to transmute that energy up and back up in your brain and away from the down area. And that's one way to kind of do it. Now, the second thing, imagine yourself moving that energy up. So as you're thinking about this, saying, okay, my energy's up and down there. It's moving through my body, up through my arms, up through my chakras. You have all your chakras up there, the navel, the heart, through the eye chakra. All that energy is moving through the chakras. And now you're becoming a superhuman. Look at yourself as a Superman, right? Look at yourself as the mighty Thor, right? All that energy. I look at myself like Odin. Odin's many years old, but he's still strong, right? Because you can always be more powerful. You can always be someone who's got that energy to be able to endure and to be able to strong. No matter if the person's 20, 30 years under your age, you're still strong and you're still masculine and you're still that powerful male that we need in society. So imagine that energy. Imagine being that strong person. Yoga. I have no trouble doing yoga and meditation because those type of things work on the breathing, but it's also flexibility. And you can call this different types of things. And we go back to Kelder's book. Those exercises are all looking at the chakras in the middle of your body. So the yoga types exercises, you can call them yoga. They probably Pilates or something that you can probably call some of them too, the up and downward dog, things like that, exercises. And I'll have to go back and show you guys those. I just haven't had a chance to because I'm doing so many things right now. But I will eventually go back to those and show you the book and things like that. But the Fountain of Youth by Peter Kelder has got a lot of exercises, and it's like a form of yoga that a lot of those monks did in Tibet back in the old days to be older. Now I'm going to spend a little more time here only because I want to make sure that I kind of cover this so that you guys see it, and spend more time if you can ask questions if you want later. Tantra, another thing you could do, standing on your head. This is also a very good thing, especially for a lot of you younger guys. Stand on your head. Once again, now you're focusing on getting that energy away from the lower half of your chakras and moving it up. And once again, you're doing things. You're taking care of your balance. So nothing wrong with that. Going against the wall, staying on your head, and trying that. That's not a bad idea as well. Letting go of addictions, another one. Stay away from the addictions. If you have an addiction to vaping, if you have an addiction to drugs, if you have an addiction to drinking, alcohol, you got to take it one step at a time. Now, just like the addiction to sex, Just like the addition to porn. Start taking one at a time. You know, if you relapse, you relapse. But the idea is, warriors, you want to start. So start taking one day at a time. Even like if you want an addiction to television or video games, stay away from one day. Then try it a second day, right? You got to go back, then try it again. Try it three days. The habit needs to be broken. It takes 21 days, in my opinion, to break a habit, good or bad. And the bad habits you want to break real fast. And that's something you go back to. So, and goals. The last one I want to talk about here that I have in my notes, goals. So again, we always focus back on goals. Why? Well, you got to have a purpose. Without a purpose, a warrior works aimlessly throughout, doesn't know what they're doing, chaotic. And eventually a warrior gets bored and they get in trouble and they get tempted. And now you're sitting there looking at a lot of problems. Find a goals, find things to do. Making money. You want to make $1 million this year? Put it together as a goal. You want to go ahead and get a six-pack? I'm still working. I'm getting 3, getting closer, but I got a long way to go. But the idea, my friends, I don't care if I'm 70, 80 years old, I'm going to get that six-pack. Because this is a goal that I want. And because I finally found a way to do it through retention. I could never do it years ago. I know I couldn't understand why. Now I understand why. I wasn't keeping my nutrients. I was throwing them away. So how can you build muscle? How can you do that without your nutrients? Makes sense. But I was foolish for many, many years as a foolish warrior. Now, gotten a little smarter, working with the Lord, better off. But the goals are important. Goals, activities, you know. Vigor Warrior's got a doctorate, so he did a lot of that stuff goals-wise. Finding ways to finish a master's degree. Finds a way to get a doctorate. Finding ways to get things done. Making money. Achieving things, right? Those type of things are important, warriors. But the thing it does the most, it keeps you away from temptation. You're not going to think about women if you're thinking about all these other things. And I know that's kind of different than a lot of people tell you in our society. A lot of people telling you got to have sex all the time. I'm telling you don't anymore. And maybe I'm an old 61-year-old thought pattern here. But I'll tell you what, I feel tremendous. And it's because, and women are over me more than they used to be. 20 times more. But it's not that important to me. Because I realize that God's purpose is what's important. And all these things, and I've had a beautiful wife for many, many years. I don't need to focus on these other things. And that's the key, my friends. You've got to focus on goals. Use constructive things. Human beings need to be constructive, doing things. I don't care if you're working on a farm. I don't care if you're working in an office. I don't care if you're working on anything related to other things. Do not fall into the pattern of temptation. The way to do that is keep active, keep busy, and keep moving. And that's the key. All right, my friends, I know this is long, and I apologize. We're up to 23 minutes here, but I wanted to cover this because a lot of people were asking about this, and I had a chance tonight to do it, and I wanted to kind of get it done. So hope you guys get some ideas out of here. Hope it helps you a little bit. Hope you guys have some thoughts about how you can transmute. The bottom line is, retention only works if you're able to keep yourself transmuting energy into constructive things, getting away that energy to figure out how to transmute into things that are going to be productive, and that you can continue to be that masculine male that provides productivity, protects your strength, and the ability to be able to be that man, that leader, that person that we need in society. You and I need to be that leader. And I don't care how old you are, that never ends. Up until the last day you're here, you're going to fight and leave us as a warrior. I mean, I don't care. I mean, I played football like this too back in the old days, right? You got to carry me out on a stretcher. I'm not going quietly. The warriors should never go quietly. I don't care if you're Julius Caesar. I don't care if you're Alexander the Great. I don't care if you're Napoleon. You don't look at people and say, I'm going out easy. I'm going out the same way I came in. And that's a strong warrior. And that's what you need. All right, my friends. Well, thank you guys for all the comments, and thanks for the ideas here. Hopefully you guys this helped a little bit, and we're going to do another one soon. But in the meantime, 2 things to remember at the 25-minute mark. Sorry, guys. 2 minutes, 2 things to remember. First of all, as this evening comes to close, every new day, starting in about 10 minutes here, I think, starting in 10 minutes, every new day is a great day for a warrior. And the second thing is, of course, my friends, never give up. And always remember to battle!